All right. Those of you watching online, thanks, Chris. You're good. You're a good boy. Good boy. Keep it up. Way to put where I'll step on it. You have one job. No. Quick question for you guys. Anyone watching online, give us a thumbs up. Anyone here be willing to just kind of confess a little bit? We'll make it kind of like confession hour and say, you know what, Trent, if I'm being honest, I can get a little bit easily offended by things. Anybody easily offended by some stuff? Okay, a couple hands. Let's do it this way, not that way. Would someone very close to you say you are easily offended by things? Maybe that's a better way to put it, right? Anyone been offended about something in the last week or so? That hand went fast. Those hands went fast. Front row is feeling it. Everybody, get that, you son of... Okay. Well, anyways, I remember when I was a little kid and grew up in the country and out there, and my dad, I think, was messing with the car, and, you know, back then he's a railroader, so you didn't take anything anywhere. You had to fix kind of all your stuff. And I don't know if it was leaking, antifreeze, coolant, whatever, but I remember he had like this bowl, he's collecting stuff, and then he moved it to the side by the garage, and he said, hey, we got to get rid of that. I was a little guy. I was like, why? And he was like, well, with antifreeze, if you leave it out, then like the dogs, whatever, will drink it, and it will kill them. And because I'm an incredibly smart 8-year-old, I said, if it kills them, then why would they drink it? And he said, well, because it's sweet, and they don't know that it's actually going to kill them. So I was kind of thinking about that concept, and I was like, is that even true? I've heard that my whole life. Maybe not. You know, I like science, chemistry. So I did find this on Google, which will never lie. But what I noticed is at the very end, it said a tiny amount, talking about antifreeze, can result in severe poisoning. And it talked about how like a teaspoon can kill a cat, and like 3 teaspoons can get, it's crazy. And even for humans, it's deadly. Now, why am I telling you guys that? This is really important. Today we're going to talk about what do you do when you get offended? Because Jesus has been there. Jesus was offended. So what do we do? And I want to talk about offense because there's really 2 stages to every single offense, okay? And the first stage is the feeling of being offended. And that's when someone pours you a big old glass, look how good that looks, of offense for you. And here's what happens for all of us here, okay? So this is the offense. Now, the reason I wanted to use antifreeze in a wine glass is actually, there's a reason here, okay? Because that is going to happen. Everyone in this room, just know that. You are going to be offended. Jesus even said that. He said, hey, just so you know, you're going to be offended. And he's kind of called us to live unoffended. So what happens when someone pours me this glass and it looks so good? The first stage is the feeling. I feel offended. But then the second stage, and this is the most important one. There's only 2 stages to this. The second stage, on screen, is the choice I have to live offended or not. And that's when it actually does become my choice again. So I can either choose to drink this and poison myself, or I can choose to go a different route. That's how offenses work. Now, if you're young in here, I want to kind of help you out because no one taught me this kind of growing up. All of us in this room, the first I'm going to tell you, we all get it. I've said some stupid stuff in my life, right? I've been married for 20 plus years. I've said a lot of stupid stuff in my marriage. And there's times I've said something or did something and really didn't mean it. But I can look and I'm like, man, that really kind of hurt my wife's feelings. Or, man, I shouldn't have said that with my kids. That's upset my kids. You can go down the line. I know sometimes I've been with a group and you're laughing and you keep pushing it. And I'm one of those people like, I really do want to be clean. And then they keep pushing it with the jokes. And I'm like, oh, if I say this, it'll be so funny. But it's kind of inappropriate. And then I do it. And then I look and it's like, oh, I offended somebody. So when you offend people, it's kind of simple. Just man up to it, woman up to it, and be like, hey, I offended you. I'm sorry, apologize. That's at least what you can do. But here, if you're young, this is what no one told me growing up. I never knew this. Actually, there are some people who are offended by me, Trent Carpenter, because I simply don't do what they think I should do. You see, that offends people too. I didn't know that growing up. And then I got in this business and learned everybody's offended by stuff I'm not doing. And everyone in this room has ideas of what I should do and how I should act. So you can offend people even if you don't do wrong. Matter of fact, Jesus, if you believe the New Testament, Jesus actually, the New Testament says, never sinned. Never once. Perfect. Son of God. Yet he offended people all the time. So you can even not be doing wrong and still offend somebody. So I want to give you just a couple thoughts this morning. And we're going to be in Mark chapter 3. Kind of a quick story about Jesus. And then if you're here last week, we talked about Ephesians and how Paul said, don't let the sun go down in your anger. We're going to come back to that and kind of close out this kind of part 2 concept. But here's just a couple quick ideas, okay? Just because you feel offended, yeah, got it. Just because you feel offended doesn't mean you have to live offended. Do you know that? Now, I know what we do. We all look at it and we're like, but it looks so good. And we kind of inspect it. And there's nothing wrong with this. Don't get me wrong. I'm telling you guys, I think sometimes you get in church and it gets weird. People say weird stuff and they think it's spiritual and it's not. Like, you just don't worry about it. Like, if someone hurts your feelings, that's okay. It's okay if someone says something that maybe is a lie about you and you're devastated. That's human. Be human. But what I think we do is we start really inspecting, well, why did they do this? And we start becoming consumed with how much we want to drink it. We know deep down it's not good for us, but we still are so pulled in by wanting to drink the offense. That's kind of how it works. So, just because you feel offended doesn't mean you have to live offended. Mark 3, this is what it says there in verse 20. It says, one time, kind of sounds like a fairy tale, it's not. This actually happened one time. One time Jesus entered a house, and the crowds began to gather again. Soon he and his disciples couldn't even find time to eat. People were everywhere. When his family heard what was happening, now, I don't know if they're jealous. I don't know if they're nervous about the religious leaders. I don't know why. Maybe they just didn't believe in that he was actually the Son of God, his own siblings. But it says, when his family heard what was happening, they tried to take him away. And look what they said. He's out of his mind. So here you see Jesus getting ready to do his thing, and his very own family is like, well, don't put this on us. He's saying the nonsense, not us. We don't believe this. They literally, his own family, and I know I've been deeply offended, as many of you have, when it's people you care about, people you think, and they love you, but they say something or they do something. Here Jesus felt a pretty strong, his own family is kind of saying, he's claiming stuff, but we're not buying it, right? He's out of his mind, his own flesh and blood. It says, but the teacher of religious law, the ones who hated him, who arrived from Jerusalem, said, he's possessed by Satan, the prince of demons. That's where he gets the power to cast out demons. Now, I want you to really hear this. So you see his family, people he cares about, sometimes they offend us, and it hurts. And then sometimes you have people who don't like you, and you know they don't like you, and they probably go behind your back and talk trash about you every single day. I was talking to someone the other day, and they were like, and I knew they didn't like this other person. I was like, hey, about them? They're like, yeah, he's not bad, but... And I literally said, what's coming after the but? Because I know it's going to be some serious trash. And he just kind of laughed at me. He's like, no, but, and then he just trashed this person, right? And that's some people are doing that to you, and they do it to me. Oh, well, we can kind of hopefully learn to get over that. But being offended in life is guaranteed. It is. Being offended in life is guaranteed. But living offended is your choice. Think about that for a second. Being offended, we're all going to get offended in here by something we just didn't think they should have done, shouldn't have said, shouldn't have acted that way. But living offended, just choosing to drink this up, that becomes my choice now. And I think for some of us in the room, some of us watching online, we're like, no, I had to drink it because they poured it for me. No, you don't. You don't. You don't have to live offended. As we're about to see with Jesus, it's so impressive. What's he do? Kind of some action steps here. The first is this. He attacks the problem, not the person. You see, when I get offended, what happens is I start building up this narrative in my mind about how much I want to destroy you because you hurt me. So I want to hurt you back. Jesus, though, doesn't do that. He actually does something that's really wise. So those of you who get offended by maybe an enemy, what he does is so genius. Jesus addresses the issue, and there's nothing wrong with that. So let's say you work in an office, and you're one of the managers or leaders. And someone makes a comment and says, hey, I heard that she took money and she did this, and you hear about it. There's nothing wrong with saying, no, that's not true. We're not going to say stuff that's not true. That's what Jesus does. He actually answers the question. He attacks the problem. He doesn't go nuts on the people. Look what he says. Jesus called them over and responded with the illustration. you're saying of Satan, how can Satan cast out Satan, he asked. A kingdom divided by civil war will collapse. Similarly, a family splintered by feuding will fall apart. And if Satan is divided and fights against himself, how can he stand? He wouldn't survive. You notice what he did? He doesn't start saying, oh, you guys hurt my feelings, and now I'm going to lash out at you, and I'm going to be a baby. No, he's like, let's stop for a second. You guys are saying I'm actually Satan, or Satan's working in me to cast out Satan. That doesn't make sense. Why doesn't it make sense, Jesus? Because it's not true. You're okay to do that. You're okay when someone pours you that big glass of offense to actually say, wait. No, I'm not going to go nuts here. But that's not true. And I think people need to hear that. That's okay. But you notice what he didn't do? He said, you guys are so stupid, and I hate you, and I'm going to throw down. And here's the danger of this, okay? I want you to hear this. Here's what we do too. What happens is when someone pours me this offense, I not only start sipping on it, even though it makes me sick, could kill me. What I do is even grosser. I start inviting some of you to come over to drink with me because I'm a social drinker, right? I'm like, hey, why don't you come over and join in? Let me tell you what they did to me. And I love getting you going because you're like, oh, my God. I tell you right now, sister, if someone said that to me, right, we love it. And we're all eating it up and we're all drinking it in. But think about this. Think of the band. Just walked off stage and one of them's in the back room. Say they haven't heard anything yet. And say it's Sarah. Sarah, let's just pretend Sarah Cooper's there. I'm like, hey, Sarah, come out here. I bring her back from backstage. I'm like, hey, I've got this delicious glass of lemonade. Yellow Gatorade. Drink it. Now think about this for a second. You guys would literally yell, no. And you would get back, you would leave, and you get in your car and be like, why is he so sadistic? He was literally trying to harm somebody else. Trent, if you want to pour it and drink it, you do your thing, buddy. But you're going to kill someone innocent? That's what we do with our offense, though. We like to gather people around, and we take it and pour more for them. No, drink up. Guess what they said to me? Guess what they did? We love living in it, but we also invite other people to be part of that. So what do? I'm going to close in Ephesians 4, and before I do, just read a couple verses there. I want to give you some steps, okay? And I think Paul's kind of addressing the stuff he saw and heard that Jesus did. But I want to give you just two kind of quick steps to try to think through before you lose your mind the next time that you get offended. And the first is this, and this has helped me over the last 20 years in the business I'm in. Leave room for what you don't understand. Leave room. Now, you see, you guys are part of the tri-state with me. And the tri-state Appalachia, one thing I've learned is we're very kind of throw-down people. Are we not? We're fighting people, aren't we? I mean, I've been in other places, and I start realizing, even in other cities, like their culture isn't nearly kind of as aggressive as we are. Right? Go out to the country and say something. You want me to shoot you? I mean, there's just, people are ready to fight. And it can be in the city, too. Drive in the city, say something like, people are like ready to jump you. It's crazy. We're a feisty group. My wife, she teaches middle school, and they start bringing me in because it's getting warm. So they brought all the kids in. They're talking about dress code. And my favorite thing, I was walking with my wife the other day, and my wife said, you can't believe how many head snaps we're seeing. You can't tell me what to wear. Right? That's how we operate. All of us here. And what happens, so what's that have to do with offense? Sometimes when someone offends me, what I instantly do is I jump to conclusions. Well, I tell you why they're doing that. Because they think oh, you know that? You ask? Oh, no, I didn't ask them. I just know. Why? Because we all do the same thing. You see, this is the sickness. I judge every one of you in this room by your actions. Hey, Eric, can you meet me today at 4 o'clock? You're a little bit late. I'm like, he's just late because he don't care. He don't value my time. But you know what? I'm late to stuff, and you know what happened? Well, you don't understand. I got called in a meeting. Because I judge myself by my intentions. That's what we all do. But I judge you by your actions, and you can make one false move, and I label you like that. Aren't you glad God doesn't do that? I'll just be honest with you guys. I didn't talk about this at 9:30. I have stolen before. A lot. Okay? I've been in a lot of fights. I have lied through my teeth so many times. I'm glad God doesn't look at these instances of my life and just be like, there's Trent, the liar, the cheater, the thief. But we do that to people all the time. People have one instant, maybe, and us are like, well, they don't talk to me like that. Maybe it's not even about you. Maybe they had the most horrible day whatsoever. We've got to leave room for what we don't understand. You don't know the whole story, so chill. One of my favorite stories is a book I was reading 5-6 months ago. And I don't remember the name of the book, and I've read it a few different places. This is so good, though. Talked about a dad who was on, I think, a city bus, and he had 3 little kids, and they're losing their minds. And one of the old ladies was sitting there, and she's dressed very nice, and she has her purse, and the kid walks by with like a sucker, and like literally like, you know, just like stuff's dropping on her. He goes to grab her purse. She's furious. And everybody on the bus collectively is watching this dad not do anything. And he's just got his head down like he doesn't even care. And his 3 little kids are losing their mind. So what happens is they're all kind of looking at each other, and we're all judging, and we're all offended because our babies don't do that. My kids never act that way. And finally, one guy finally had the nerve, the audacity to be like, we got to do something. So he literally picked on and said, sir, I'm sorry, but your kids are going nuts on this bus. And this guy with his head down looked up, dazed, said, I'm so sorry. Yeah, and he tried to gather the kids. He said, we just left their mom's funeral. Now, what happened? What do you think happened? The person telling the story said, I literally watched that lady who was so prim and proper and so upset. You know what? She started playing with that kid. That kid was sitting on her lap before they got. Why? Because the story changed. But we do it all the time. Oh, no, I know why they act that way. No, you don't. I don't either. So how about we give people the benefit of the doubt? This is what Paul says in Ephesians 4. He says, always be humble. Ooh. Maybe I don't know the whole story. Maybe I'll humble myself and realize I don't know everything. And be gentle. Some of us in here could hear this. Be patient with each other. This is my favorite part. Making allowance for each other's faults because of your love. Because I love and care about you, I'm going to give some wiggle room here. And this gets so good. Make every effort to keep yourselves united in the Spirit, binding yourselves together with peace. You know, we have so many amazing C3ers, so many people that have been here for a long time. But a couple I was thinking about was the Lucases and the Hanshaws. And the reason I'll say that is, Jeff, one with the beard, all these. So this is Jeff, literally Carla and Jeff Lucas on the left, amazing. That's Tina Hanshaw, it's her son Jimmy. But why am I sharing this with you? Because I'm telling you, talking to these people, there's salt of the earth, as good as it gets. But you know why I'm really honestly telling you that? Because I've watched, literally, I know Carla was working one day, and Tina, had tough stuff in the past, came by, saw her, and literally, Tina said, Carla, it saved my life. That one day in the grocery, she saved my life because I was in such a low place. That's who Carla is. Jeff, awesome. And then those two got baptized at the Ironton campus a long time ago. Tina gets baptized, and then just recently Jimmy gets baptized. But when Jimmy got baptized, when he called me, he said, I want Jeff to do it. Because he's literally been my dad. He's been a dad for me. Something I didn't have. And why I'm saying that, you guys, one, they're awesome people. They're amazing. But two, I've watched them have this humble and gentle spirit, being patient with people when they've let them down. That's what we're being called into, is to live a life like that. Matter of fact, you know how arrogant we are? There's a story in the New Testament where the disciples, Jesus' like right-hand dudes, right? They start seeing other people doing all this stuff, this work for Jesus, and they don't like it. So they go back to Jesus and say, hey, Jesus, there's a group working, but they don't do it like we do it. Sound familiar, anybody with church? They don't do things the way that we do, and we don't like it, so you want to go shut them down, or you want us to shut them down? You know what Jesus says? This is so amazing. Jesus says, are they for me? They're like, yeah. They said they're following you. They're all about it. Jesus says this, then they're not against me. Could you imagine church unity in the tri-state if we just said, you want to know our bottom line is, are you for the Jesus of the Bible? Yeah. Then you're not against us. We don't have to go to war. Imagine if we had that same unity. This is the unity Paul's talking about. Now, I'm going to be a church nerd for just a second. Some of you take a nap. Some of you can take a nap. But I want to tell you kind of why I think things rub against each other. This is what he goes on to say in verse 11. He says, now these are the gifts Christ gave to the church: the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the pastors, and the teachers. Now, there's a lot of debate on this, okay? But I'm just going to tell you, when he was saying this is what builds up the church, he said there's really 5 gifts that people kind of have a collection of. Why am I telling you this? Because here's what I've noticed in my life. We always talk about the up and out rhythm of Jesus. Jesus had this where he would constantly kind of get away and kind of focus on just spending time with the Father. He had this group of people that he ate with, did life with. But then he also had this outward focus where it's like, Jesus, why are you talking to a Samaritan and a woman, and she's shacking up with a guy, and she's been married and divorced 5 times? We don't do that. And Jesus is like, I do. Because he was always thinking about people on the outside. Now, the reason I'm sharing this with you, though, there's 5 kind of 5 giftings. Think about this for a second. What's a teacher do? A teacher is someone who loves teaching and people understanding new things about God. So it's kind of in that up and in kind of category. What about a pastor? The other word for pastor is shepherd. What's a shepherd do? Shepherd is so in-focused, and they're awesome. I'm not a good one. So you come to me, you're like, I went to meet with Trent and talk to him, and he didn't really help me. Yes, because I'm terrible at it. Just being honest. I remember I told someone one day, and they said, you know what, Trent, I don't think you're a very good pastor. I said, I agree. I've never claimed to be. I'm not trying to argue this with anyone. That's not in my true gift set. But you know what I've learned over the last 20 years? I need to get people around me on my team that literally have that gift. You know why? A few years back, a family did something. They were leaving here. I was kind of ticked about something, and I said, let them go. And a guy looked at me, and he said, have you ever thought about how they feel with everything going on right now? Nope, don't care. And he literally, he's a shepherd, a pastor. He said, you should. And it hit me. Right? Now for me, you've got a friend of mine, his name's Chuck. Would be the evangelist. And some of you like that. You're bold, right? You're like the salesman mentality. You're great at like getting people involved. You're inviting. It's awesome. Some of you in here are like, I wouldn't do that in a million years. Now, you're like, here, apostle, I know it sounds very churchy, but apostle, probably a little bit more, that's the person that's like always wanting to start stuff. Hey, let's start 5 new churches. Let's add 38 small groups. Right? But here's why I'm saying that. All 5 of these gifts work completely different. So we have a choice to make. I believe personally, biblically, that what he was saying is all of you in this room have an assortment of these gifts, all of you. And it's what makes us amazing. But what I've learned in the past is I can take my gift, as I'm more an apostle and then someone's a pastor, I can get annoyed with them because I don't get why they act the way they do. But if you get a little smarter and realize what Paul's saying in Ephesians 4, he's like, no, use that for your strength. Because they see things you don't. You have blind spots. See, that's where real unity comes in. It's not me saying all of you need to act like me and think like me and talk like me. That would be a disaster. What I am saying is let's all use our gifts together, collectively, because we all can see and do things others can't. Look what he says, verse 12. He says, their responsibility is to equip God's people to do his work and build up the church, the body. All of us in here should be using how we're wired to build up the body. Why? Because we need unity in our differences, not making our differences what divides us, because we constantly are looking to be divided. And then the last one, I want you to hear this. I'm going to tell you the whole truth of things, okay? You have the freedom this morning. You have the freedom watching online. You have the freedom, if you watch this a year from now, to drink up the offense. You do. You have the freedom. Because here's the beauty of God. God's like, I don't force you to do things. Jesus didn't either. He's like, hey, you want to drink the poison? Drink it up. It's going to make you sick, may even kill you. But if you choose not to drink it, that's where you actually will get your freedom. So this morning, here's what I'm going to kind of challenge you to do. You have the freedom. You have the freedom to stay bitter, live on bitter street, be angry for the rest of your life. You have the freedom, do it. But Jesus is saying, listen to me. If you choose to go the opposite route, that's where you're going to find true freedom. Because you're not free right now. It's literally entangling you. It's ruining you. I wrote this down. You either overlook an offense or it will get under you and under your skin. I saw this story on Instagram, this video, and we all know all videos on Instagram have to be true, right? It was done very well. It has to be true. But anyways, here's what it said. Just saw it yesterday. It said eagles. It was like given like this National Geographic kind of story, but it was like, did you know that crows, and you guys can fact check me, get back with me and be like, dude, that's all made up. Okay, but it's a good story anyways. It said crows will actually get on the back of eagles. And it said they will like put their claws into their back and their feathers and they'll just peck at them. I don't know if they're eating, I don't know what they're doing, but they peck at eagles. And what it said in this video was really good. It said the eagle doesn't even get twisted up in it. It doesn't care. As soon as the crow gets on an eagle's back, the eagle takes off and flies straight up as fast and as high as it can because it knows something. It knows the crow can't survive at those altitudes. It can't breathe. And it said it just keeps flying until finally the crow falls off and flies back down. And as I was watching that video yesterday on Insta, my Finsta, hey young'uns, nobody? Okay, whatever. Anyways, I'm on my Insta, and I'm watching this. I'm like, that's it. Because here's what I think happens. I think some of you, if you hear Jesus tells us, he says, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to call you, me living in you, to overlook an offense. And we all hear that, and we're like, but so Jesus, I just ignore it, act like it didn't happen? No, it happened. I'm supposed to act like it didn't hurt me? No, it hurt you. But here's your choice. Do you want to stay low with them and start doing what they're doing? Do you want to be them? No. Rise above. I love it because it said the eagle doesn't mess with it. It ignores them. It just goes, I'm bigger than that. My wife and I flew, I've flown just a handful of times in my life, but we flew for vacation a while back. And I remember, my wife didn't even know this. We were getting ready to get out of our car to get on the plane, go to the airport, get on the plane, and I get a message from a C3er who just literally shreds me. I mean, it was awful. And it's one of those why do you have to tell me this right now? I just have 7. And I remember reading this. It was actually from another C3, about a C3. But anyways, they said, and I was like, oh. And it wasn't true. And it was pretty damaging. And I'm like, why do they keep, oh. And I remember thinking, this is going to literally ruin the next 6 days of my vacation. Because I can't not think about it. And I was so tempted to be like, I'm going to get to that airport bar and I'm going to drink it up. I might even bring my wife in, bring my kids in on it. And I remember we get on the plane and my wife's talking and I had a window seat because I'm selfish. And I think she had another kid. But anyways, I just remember I was by the window. And I'm looking out and I'm like, this is such a big deal, such a big deal, such a big deal. And then the plane, get ready for takeoff. Okay, such a big deal. Everything's so big. And you look out the window and there's all this big equipment. There's this big building. That's the airport. And then all of a sudden we start going really fast. And you go, shh. Not a good sound effect. Hold on. Shh. Still not that good. But anyways, we start taking off, right? And as we got higher, I noticed something really weird. I noticed as I looked down, all this stuff that was so big kept getting smaller. And I remember I looked down at one point. I remember looking down and houses were literally these tiny little squares. And I saw these little dots look like ants moving around. It was vehicles. I know some of you are like, dude, you've completely lost me today. Okay, here it is. As I elevated, all this stuff that was so big, so awful, got smaller, like an eagle. I'm not going to stay down here and get involved and drink it up and get more people drinking it up the way I feel better about myself and it feeds into me and my insecurities. I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to rise above. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to live offended. So as we close, here's some advice. Verses 31, 32. Get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, harsh words, and slander, as well as all types of evil behavior. Get rid of it. It's not good for you. This isn't some law, do it or else. I think God's saying it's just not good. No one wants to live that way. Now get this. Instead, be kind to each other, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, just as God through Christ has forgiven you. So as we get ready to pray and close, I want you to see that. I want you to feel this. Okay? Maybe you've zoned out. Just zone in for 5 seconds and hear me, okay? When you've been offended, you have a choice. You can either drink it up or you can pour it out. I'm not belittling what happened. I'm just telling you, I can guzzle it down. I can take sips or I can pour it out. But here's what I want you to hear, okay? Hear me, here. Just hear this. I promise we'll get out. If I do either one of these two, it doesn't hurt the person I'm mad at. Do you know that? It doesn't ruin them. They probably don't care anyways. I can drink all day, and guess what? They could care less. They probably don't even know I'm bothered. Or I can pour out. Still doesn't bother them. But one of these two might kill me. Now, all of you in this room, those of you watching online, you're very smart people. So if I looked at you and I'm going to be your doctor for a second, I'm like, hey, you've got two choices with this. It's bad. It's bad. No one's denying it's bad. It hurts. It stings. You feel it. Do it. But I'm going to be your doctor, okay? You got two choices. Take the poison, down it, or pour it out. Wow, I want to hurt them so bad. Neither one does. But if you guzzle this, it might kill you. It probably will. But if you pour it out, then you get to live longer, better. We all know the choice. But for some reason, the enemy keeps reminding us, no. You're going to make them pay by you drinking that. You're not. You're going to end up drinking it so much that, guess what? Your kids are going to start drinking it. Your spouse is going to start drinking it. Your family member is going to start drinking it. And next thing you know, you poisoned everyone around you because you chose to drink the poison. Don't drink the antifreeze. It may taste good. It may look good. But it will kill you. I promise. Let's pray. If you would, just close your eyes for just a second. Father, I thank you so much for this group of people. Thank you to those people watching online. And God, I pray today that there would be freedom. God, I pray for some people in this room who are carrying some heavy stuff. And God, I am not belittling it. God, today we are talking about offenses. Next week, God, when Aaron talks about abuse, heavy, deeper stuff, but for this morning, I'm just talking about those words, those slides, the slander, the moments when someone hurt our feelings deeply. God, I pray today. I pray for those people watching. Pray for those people in here. Pray you would remind them that there is freedom. And I'm going to do this, then you heads down for just a second, nobody looking around. But anyone be honest enough this morning to say, you know what, God, I really am. I'm hurt. I am. And God's not belittling that. But man, I don't know if I've been handling this right. Or I want to handle it right. Anyone just like to lift their hand for a second? I'd love to pray for you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else just say, pray for me. Thank you. See ya. Thanks. Maybe some of you are feeling that and you didn't raise your hand. I just want to pray for you guys right now. God, I pray for those who would say, I am hurting, and I've been hurt, and I've been carrying it with me, and maybe I've done the worst possible thing. I not only guzzle it down, I've been pouring it back myself. I keep repeating this process. And God, it's killing me. And today, the good news of the gospel is you don't have to live like that. Jesus says, as I live in you, I'm going to give you the supernatural power to love and forgive as I forgave. I'm going to give you the power to love people the way that I love you. So you can live freer and lighter. You don't have to be consumed and poisoned by what others do and say. That is good news, God. Thank you for your Son that He fixed the issue, that He overcame the offense. Help us to overlook and overcome the offenses in our lives. Father, I pray today, I pray for someone here, someone watching, doesn't know you. It's not some crazy ritual. It's not some big step. You just say, whoever believes, whoever calls on my name. That's it. Faith in you. So I pray today for someone for the first time in their life in this room, watching. Here's your prayer. Jesus, I know I've made a mess of things. I know I've sinned. But I'm asking you this morning to forgive me. Save me. Here's your prayer, just like Peter as he was thinking. Jesus, save me. And God, we know you promise us in your word that once we take that simple first step, you now promise to make us brand new and dwell in us. Give us a new heart, a heart that can love and forgive just like you. Help us to do that today. Jesus, we thank you that you gave everything so that we could have life in you. Now help us to pour out the offense. Help us not to drink it this week. More than anything, help us to love and forgive as you love and forgive in us. We ask these things in your name. Amen. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Like I said, next week, kind of a heavy one. We'll be been there week 5. See you then. Take care. 4. Dodgeball tonight. Teen dodgeball. Chairs in the back. Pushed in the back. Got you, Fields. Here to help. Stack in the back.